Like, have you ever been somewhere, a city, a coastline, a particular street, a room in a house you visited once, and felt something that you could only describe as falling in love? Not with a person, with a place. A pull so specific and so strong that leaving felt like a loss, like you were walking away from something that was yours even though you had only just arrived. And maybe you have carried that place with you ever since. Maybe you find yourself returning to it in your mind on ordinary days, or dreaming about it at night, or feeling a particular kind of grief every time you think about how far away it is. If that experience is familiar to you, I want you to know that what you felt was not imagination. It was not mere preference or aesthetic appreciation. Like, what you experienced has a name, a psychological explanation, and a neurological basis that researchers have only recently begun to fully understand. And it reveals something profound about how the human mind creates meaning, belonging, and identity, not just through people, but through the physical world itself. Let us start with a concept that most people have never heard of, but that explains this experience almost perfectly. It is called topophilia, a term coined by the humanistic geographer Yi-Fu Tuan in 1974 to describe the deep emotional bond between a person and a particular place. Tuan argued that places are not simply locations on a map. They are psychological and emotional constructions, layered with memory, meaning, sensation, and identity. Like, when we fall in love with a place, we are not responding to geography. We are responding to what that geography makes us feel about ourselves and about life. The place becomes a mirror. It reflects back something we recognize, something we have been looking for. Now, here's where the neuroscience becomes fascinating. Research has shown that the brain processes meaningful places using many of the same neural pathways involved in processing meaningful relationships. The hippocampus, which is responsible for both spatial memory and emotional memory, encodes places and the feelings associated with them together as a single integrated experience. This is why the smell of salt air can instantly transport you to a specific summer, why the light of a particular city can feel like coming home even on your first visit. The brain does not separate place from feeling. They are stored together, experienced together. And when you return to that place, physically or in memory, you're not just revisiting a location, you are re-entering an emotional state that your brain has encoded as meaningful. There are 3 psychological profiles that explain why some people fall in love with places so much more deeply than others. The first is people who have a strong need for belonging that was not fully met in childhood. Like, for these individuals, certain places fill a psychological role that people were not always able to fill. They offer unconditional acceptance, consistency, and a sense of being held without the complexity and unpredictability of human relationships. The place does not disappoint. It does not leave. It does not change its mind. Research on attachment theory has found that people with insecure attachment styles, particularly those who experienced inconsistent or unavailable caregiving in childhood, are significantly more likely to form intense emotional bonds with places as a substitute source of security and belonging. The second profile involves what psychologists call peak experiences, moments of extraordinary aliveness, clarity, and emotional intensity that Abraham Maslow identified as among the most psychologically significant experiences a human being can have. When a peak experience occurs in a specific place, the brain fuses the two together permanently. The place becomes the container of the experience. And every time the person thinks about that place, they are not just remembering where they were. They are reaching back toward the most alive they have ever felt. This is why people fall in love with the city where they had their great adventure, the country where they found themselves, the town where they experienced something that changed them. The place did not create the feeling, but it held it, and the mind never forgets a container that held something that precious. The third profile is rooted in identity resonance, the experience of arriving somewhere and feeling with an inexplicable certainty that this place matches something deep inside you, the pace of it, the light of it, the culture of it, the aesthetic of it. Something about it corresponds to an inner landscape you carry, but rarely get to inhabit fully. Psychologists who study this phenomenon describe it as a form of self-recognition, the feeling of meeting a version of yourself that your everyday environment does not allow. And that recognition, when it happens, feels indistinguishable from love, because that is ultimately what falling in love with a place is. It is recognition. It is the experience of finding somewhere in the external world that matches something you have always carried inside. A place that asks nothing of you except that you show up. A place where, for reasons you may never be able to fully explain, you feel most completely like yourself. And if you have ever felt that, if there is a place somewhere in the world or in your memory that holds that kind of power over you, do not dismiss it as mere sentiment. It is your inner world telling you something true about who you are, about what you need, about where you belong.